All right. Hello. Um, Welcome. I want to take a very sincere moment and just thank all of you who are watching. It's time to listen to the subtext. It's time to listen to what happens when it's all white people in a room talking. I know a lot of people are like, what is this? What is going on? Oh, as a white person, I have figured out this. Here, my black friend will confirm this. Who is this? Why is this? And how often on a panel do we defer to the white person defer to the black person to get them out of that situation or get them to go, oh no, they're not racist. There's levels to this. And that's what's important in this moment. And this is what we're learning. And hopefully by the end of this, all of that is answered and we can see the value in all of this. What happens in an NBA draft, an NFL draft, and in acting when they put us up on the block and auction us for our value? With that being said, every black actor matters. Every black trans actor matters. And no matter what, we'll see us from this point. The games are done. Now it is time for me to go work on this Black Theater Matters bill. My name is Davon Williams, and today I'm presenting to you the receipts. There are promos like the one you just saw. There's a new set, as in a new blue wall. There's a red couch, a same microphone, and it's gonna be a new camera. As in, like my baby right here. See it? See the little dot right there? Little dot right there. We're gonna have to say goodbye. It's gonna be a whole new, what is it? New year, new me. And hopefully no COVID in between. Hello, my name is Davon Williams. I am the host of The Receipts. We just had a wonderful season one. Wonderful. It's a funny way to word it. We had a season 1, and now we're in the middle of, just like The Lion King, season 1.5, just like they have movie 1.5. That's where I'm going with that. And what's beautiful is, before we transition into season 2, we have what most good hit shows have: a Christmas episode. So why a Christmas episode? Here's why. Because we had our special edition, our 1.5, in which we helped and talked and discussed the issues around Rock the Audition. Sheri Sanders was kind enough to come onto our platform. And not only did she come on, but she really trusted me with the approach that I wanted to take. We had Joanna Carpenter come on, we had Rachel Ramirez come on, and we had Elijah Caldwell make a tape. It was a nice way just to talk about the issue at hand and really talk about the levels. Trey Tennyson came on to talk about it from a collegiate educational level. And it was, for me, it was enlightening. There were times I was just listening going, even I didn't think about that. But I did ask something very specific from Sheri that was very controversial that I want to address right now before we go any further. Before we started the first episode of the special edition of The Receipts, I asked Sheri not to apologize. I really wanted to go against this idea that you just say some words and everything's better. And that goes against a lot of people's understanding. I don't know if you can hear it, but we had a nor'easter yesterday. And the trucks are working very hard. So we got snow, a red couch, and this disclaimer. But yes, again, I asked her not to apologize, which is a huge thing, because one of the easiest things to do when looking at someone and wanting accountability is go, you didn't apologize. But I really wanted to emphasize an episode on listening, really understanding the pain and the levels, because what ends up happening is you don't really give a sincere apology when you're doing it off the bat. Sometimes you got to take time. So right now, what I want to do is I want to see what happened with that time. I did not push Sheri to come back. Sheri decided on her own time when it was right. After 2.5 months, Sheri has returned just in time for the Christmas episode. There would be no Christmas episode if she didn't reach out. But regardless, she reached out. She said, there are some reforms with the Rock the Audition. There are some things that I want to change, and there are some things I want to set right. When I got that invite, we talked about it. I got to take a sneak peek at some of the initiatives taking place, and I said, let's do it. Not only let's do it, but I would also like to bring back Rachel Ramirez. Why not? Like I was completely, I had never met Rachel Ramirez before, and I was completely blown away by her insight, her understanding, her connection to the issues at hand, and just the courage it took to even speak out. So because I had spoken with Sheri and because I was tracking what was taking place, I said, let's get Rachel back in here to get some fresh eyes on this and just see how it falls on her ears. And Rachel said yes. So for everyone that's like, what is this Christmas episode? What are they talking about? Napoleon Douglas has made a video to help recap on everything you missed in the first episode of The Receipts with Davon Williams, Special Edition, Part 1. Rachel, with Sheri here, with Joanna here, with me here, with people watching, looking at Sheri across from you on the screen, of course we can't be here in person, what are your requests? What would you like? And I don't care how it sounds, I don't care how it comes out, nothing is invalid.
Yeah, neither do I.
Honestly, I am so new to naming my harm and naming my identity that I have no clue what I need, especially from you. I have no idea what justice looks like because we've never been given it. And we've never been given this platform.
Rachel Ramirez was given the rare opportunity to publicly address a person in power whom she accused of discriminatory actions. In this case, that person is Sheri Sanders, performer, entrepreneur, and author of the Rock the Audition duology, who created an online training program for educators, professional performers, and teens based on the success of her book. As her allyship is called into question, she remains committed to building an equitable space for all.
Be authentic and honest about what's happening, but we cannot exist in an industry that is not transparent anymore, because it's in that sneakiness that people take Black people down, take people of color down, take LGBTQIA. It happens in the sneaky, quiet places, and that's why transparency is number one.
She also had a colleague who vouched for her character.
In terms of Sheri and addressing being a character witness for who she is, no harm has been done to me, and I have been given a platform myself, a larger platform, to really focus on changing and dismantling white supremacy as a person of color.
Anymore, I think I should be facilitating teachers of color to do what they do, and that they're the ones who should be kind of taking the lead.
Taking time to reflect, Sheri has returned to The Receipts to share with us part 2 of her journey of accountability.
So Napoleon no longer goes by Napoleon Douglas. He goes by Napoleon, like Madonna, you know? I would like to introduce everyone again to a renewed and remixed with green hair, Rachel Ramirez. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to do this and do this well. Would you like to be my co-host for the rest of the show?
Sounds good.
Great. Nothing good is done alone. So I'm happy to have you on here with me. But before we talk to Sheri, I want to know specifically what happened to you after that episode. One, I thought it was one of the most courageous things, but I always wonder, like, what happens after the big moment, after the climax?
After I still had to talk with the director of my program, and I had to discuss with him, you know, how all of that went down. He mentioned that he didn't know that I was going to appear on The Receipts, but that he was watching it. And I talked to him about how the whole thing was handled or not handled. And then I kept going to school, and I kept living in a world that we're currently living in with the pandemic and with this second human rights movement. And I think as other people of color who exist and try to live and do art in predominantly white spaces, my guard's been up.
Did the school respond in any way? Was any action taken regarding the book?
The book pulled from the class that it was on the syllabus for, but the school made no announcement about it. They just kind of put out the renewed syllabus.
What sparked the change?
Me bringing it to them.
Just want to be clear. So did they address you at all, though?
So I had been in contact with my professor who was teaching the class when all of this happened and when I brought it to him, and then administration got involved, and then the director got involved. And so the director reached out and was like, I want to talk to you. Like, I want to make sure you're okay. Like, I want to talk about what happened. And we had that conversation, I think early November.
Yeah.
And basically I told him that I thought pulling the book was the right thing to do and that I appreciated that. And that transparency would have been additionally desired. The clip that you just pulled, Sheri had said, these things happen in corners, and oppression happens in corners where there's not light and where there's not transparency. And I think that even when institutions or people do the right thing, I think that accountability is necessary. And I think transparency is necessary. And I think that you have to acknowledge where this change comes from. Because as I mentioned in the first receipts, all anti-racism work is built on brown and black bodies, brown and black pain, brown and black labor, whether that be intellectual, emotional, and that we don't just show up to do these things separate from our lives. These are our lives. And that people who are not people of color, I think, get to separate when they step into anti-racism and when they choose to do these things. And for us, it's not really a choice, because our bodies are what our bodies are. Our names are what they are. And we don't really have a choice.
Yes, this is why I wanted you on as co-host. It's funny because sometimes you don't want to be the person being like, okay, I'm going to preach to you 10 episodes about what all this is and racism and how you can be accountable. So sometimes it's sometimes you just got to mix it up. You got to put a new face there so people can be like, oh, I never heard it that way. Because sometimes people just, they stop listening after a while. So one thing I want to thank you for is speaking. Thank you for continuing to speak, and thank you for being so courageous. Anything else that you want to add before we head right in?
No.
All right, let's get this party started. Party, what an interesting choice of words. Please welcome Sheri Sanders. Hey, Sheri, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Davon, again on the Receipts Part 2. And Rachel, I'm really psyched you're here. I asked Davon if you can come. So it's just great that we get to have open conversation together. It means a lot.
Before we have this conversation, I want to call myself out. I see both of you having she/her. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it makes everybody feel safe when they come into a room, when they know that you're saying, these are my pronouns, what are yours? And I think that that's just one of the things that, as we're in this industry, is kind of one of the places that if you do it, it just automatically sets up a safer space. So that we already know, that it's okay to have pronouns that you're choosing, and that those pronouns can change at any given moment, and that we hold space for how people feel that day or that moment or in their life moving forward. So thanks for changing it.
Rachel, is there anything that you want to add to that, or?
I like that Sheri mentioned that they can change. I'm personally in the process of kind of assessing my gender identity as well, so I added they. I thought that was already there, but it was not. And yeah, I think that it takes the pressure usually off of people who may feel more marginalized. It normalizes something that would otherwise maybe put them in a position of feeling othered. Mm-hmm. And so we take the question out of it. Never assume anyone's gender, never assume anyone's gender identity, despite how they present. And just always ask.
Yeah, and it's not preferred. So, we just say, what pronouns do you use or are you using at the moment? And it's really fun because in a classroom environment, when you give that permission, then people can show up every week and have change their pronouns or change how you want them, you want to identify them. So that kind of freedom is necessary.
All right. Speaking of freedom, Sheri, Rachel and I would like to give you the floor to discuss or share or say anything that you'd like to say.
I have a lot to say, so you'll have to forgive me, but I kept notes because,
Let me sit back.
I don't want to miss a beat here,
Yeah.
So this whole moment that we have here is going to be an act of accountability, responsibility, and apology and repair. So I just want to let you know that first and foremost, Rachel, I just want to say you are incredible because your courage is... you inspired every single person who has felt harmed that watched the receipts. And so I just wanted to say thank you for being a good role model, and your courage is contagious in a good way, not contagious and bad. So thank you for that. That courage spilled out all over and did some good work. So thank you. I have a very juicy responsibility to offer. Before I do, I think the first thing that I want to do is tell everybody why I am excited to be responsible and repair. I know that that's not typical of white women to be excited to apologize and repair for the damage that they've done, but I'm particular because of that. And maybe that's why the universe chose me. But I do want to share with you first that I keep a house of transparency, responsibility, accountability, and repair. The reason why I do is because I have PTSD, I have complex PTSD. I mentioned this at the beginning of our session together, but I have a lifetime of assault and harm that I have to work through. And sometimes I wished that some of those people who had harmed me had just said, I'm so sorry I did that. I was in a bad space. Please accept my apology, or here, let me repair that. And because I haven't had repair or apologies by certain people in my life who've really had a really bad effect on me, it turned me into the person who wanted to be who I wasn't getting. So it was like I became the teacher that I didn't have. I became the apologizer that I didn't get. It was one of those things and I wanted to be the white woman who was different than other white women, which is a woman who could say, I hurt you. I caused you harm. I caused you damage. I hurt the community. I'm sorry. I see it. I did it. And here is how I'm going to repair. And so that's why it matters so much to me to be that person, because if I get to be that person to you, Rachel, and I get to be that person to the folks that I collaborate with, and I get to be that person on my team, and I get to be that person just in general in the world, then people will hear an apology, hear my sincerity, see my changes, and only have to heal from the damage that was done. You know what I mean? You get to then repair because somebody said, I did that to you, and that's my shit. And I'm taking it back and I'm apologizing and I'm making it right. And then you can just heal. So I want to be the person I didn't have. And today I get to be that with you. And it's a privilege. So I just wanted to say that, that this all comes very authentically, because I feel like we should do this, because this world is not going to change unless we do it. Unless we who cause harm, and that's a lot of people. It's the industry, it's the world, it's our soon-to-be former president, it's your teachers, it's your peers at school. We all should be apologizing to each other for the harm that we do to each other, offering repair, and showing the change that we've made and maintaining that change. And so I just wanted to say, before I offer the an apology, that I am here to be that person for you, Rachel. And I am here to be this person in the industry, and faults and all. That is ultimately my goal. And so that's why this apology is going to be very, very meaningful, because it's going to be real and it's going to have repair. So that's all I wanted to say before I apologize. It matters to me.
All right, then with that being said, Rachel, before Sheri goes into her apology, is there anything that you want to add or say in response to what she just said?
I don't think so. I'm listening.
All right, Sheri.
First of all, I want to say thank you for your labor. You know, people we don't, as white people, don't understand what labor means. And so when we say something like, thank you for your labor, it's what you've had to endure in order for us to hear what we're doing to you. That's labor, and that's too much. And so I just want to say, for the labor that you had to put in, for the labor that my friends of color have had to put in to kind of help this moment soften so that I could make changes, the labor that they had to put in, the pain that everybody had to go through to see something that racist and disgusting in their feed and think that there's somebody out there who is, you know, supposed to be a person who gives a fuck about people of color and texture and dynamic, right? To see somebody like me coming up with that disgusting to say something that disgusting, and the pain that caused members of the BIPOC community. My apology is sincere. It was disgusting. It was racist. It was unconscious, and it got immediately addressed as soon as it happened. And I can't wait to share that with you. But right now, I just wanted to give a sincere apology that it is absolutely disgraceful that anybody should ever see anything harmful. It's going to be 2021, and everybody should feel safe in everything they read and see and experience in the classroom and in the production environment. So I just wanted to say thank you for having to go through pain in any way, to tell your teachers, to tell me, for anybody who's following me. Thank you for having to go through that pain. I'm so sorry to anybody who were harmed by me. And I'm very, very excited to tell you about the repair and to let you know that I am not the only person who is here in this moment in terms of teachers and, you know, people who are here. I can honestly say that we are not, I can't speak for everybody, but I can promise you that a bunch of us are here to change and here to be different and here to be with you and change with you and for you. So I think that's the only thing I wanted to say is it's here in my apology, and I'm excited for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for receiving it. It's
All right, so let's get into this. Sheri, after the first episode, part 1 of this special edition, what happened after? What was your journey after from there to here?
Well, I immediately called this very, very cool girl named Savannah Calder, who's an anti-racism specialist, and we got to work. And I filled her in on everything that I was doing, just to fill everybody in really, really quick on sort of like what happened before this or right before this moment, just to sort of like fill everybody in on what was happening or what we were building prior. And then what we got to work on once I realized, wow, I'm really othering people in this book, and when I mean to be supporting them. So what we did was we got to, you know, what is the most integrity that we could be in this moment? So we interviewed a bunch of surveyists to do anonymous feedback forms. We found one. We put together a team of intersectional inclusion experts to read through my book, the 2019 book, the training program, my videos that are on Broadway On Demand, which I'll talk to you about that in just a second. And we just started working. Now, we got very far because I already had some stuff on the move. So what I'd love to do is actually tell you what was already on, if that's cool, just to tell you what was on the move and then what we did with that.
All right, cool. Then let's get into that. Let's do it this way. I believe we have a comment from someone who is watching right now.
Yes.
I believe her name is Joy Doing. Joy Doing, former guest on this show. Joy Doing says, the receipts with Davon Williams. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, Joy. I'd like to know, what is the action being taken to remove the previous edition of RTA, that's Rock the Audition book, that contained that harmful material? Thank you. I would like to think that's how she said it.
Yes, that is. So the truth is that based upon, so we went on a very, 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 very heavy duty fundraising in the last 2.5 months, fundraising event, because these things all cost a lot of money. And because I was in solidarity, I did not work for the 3 months, because I can't be like, hey, who wants to take a rock class? I'm going to talk about Black music. Like, I can't. I have to change first. And then I'm going to go back, and that's going to even look different, right? So in solidarity, I'm like, okay, well, we got to get these things done. So we started a fundraising effort. We reached out to industry professionals. I applied for 7 grants, and no money came through. But the things that we did do up until this point, which I think are pretty great, is that for now, let me do it in the order. So prior to this event, in, March of this year, in the middle of the pandemic, I pitched a program to Broadway On Demand. And I said, can I create and facilitate a program where people of color and mixed ability and their allies are teaching pop, rock, traditional musical theater, and opera? They said yes. And that was in March. And they're like, you're the only one who knows how to do this, so let's do it. So, and they went, wait, we're building this plane in the air, because it's Broadway On Demand. Do you have anything already ready? So then we gave them the last 5 years of my online pop rock classes. And we used inclusive language and made pop-ups with inclusive language, because in 2015, I was saying language that was not correct. I was, saying, hey, you guys, and other terrible things. So we made adjustments on the language. And we're having it reviewed now. So that's being reviewed. And the book is being right now reviewed by 3 friends of mine who live at several intersections and are great at language. And we're going to be bringing them into this program to help build from the inside. They are reading it right now and rebuilding it with me, and working with an editor who's also of color, for us to get the book back on the shelves and healthier by mid-January. The goal is, though, that this is healthy for now. This is what I could do with no money, is to get it healthier for now. When we get to Broadway On Demand, the strategist and the anonymous feedback, the intersectional experts that we got together, we asked Broadway On Demand, hey, since we're going to be there in March, can you come over here and pay for this stuff now? Because we want to keep it moving and the money's not coming in. And they said, we can't. But in March, tell us what you need. And so Shavana and I were like, this isn't ideal, but this is the way it's going to be. And so what we did was we created several opportunities to change the moment right now. So we're having several friends who live at these intersections going, and we'll have the rest of the content ready by the end of the week this week. They have gone through and they are making changes for me. So I'm bringing them in as guests to correct the language and to say what really happened and what experience is not through a white lens, but through a lens of color and ability, and, so that it's not coming through me. And so we are adjusting the book so that the book has the language as of right now to make people feel safe and seen. And in June, when we have our launch of Broadway, our inclusion program on Broadway On Demand, we will actually have the book be entirely written by all of the marginalized communities that I bring into the book as guests. So I'm going to decenter myself from the book. I decentered myself from Broadway On Demand. I don't know if you want to bring up that picture, but I am now not the center of Rock the Audition. The center of Rock the Audition are the people of color and mixed ability that will be teaching pop rock and traditional musical theater and opera moving forward.
Let's actually let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I would love to actually look up I believe it's RTA teacher training. Can we see that really quick? So I see here, Rock the Audition, teacher training featuring our incredible RTA coaches, Elijah Caldwell, LaDonna Burns, 8 weeks. And then can we also bring up RTA teacher training online? So same exact thing, just done online. But what I noticed in both of these is that, again, you're not on it. Is this part of the decentering that you're talking about? We can pull this down.
Yeah, absolutely. All of my classes will be taught with me and people of color.
All right. Another thing that I'm seeing, can we get CAE with Sheri? So this is also the podcast Cosmopath with Sheri Sanders. And can I get CAE past the mic? So this is the addition. This is, again, even in the podcast, you're decentering yourself. Am I getting this correctly?
Yeah, this is going to be the first of several Pass the Mic. So all of the folks that I have been trying to include in the palette of theater in the industry that get unseen, unrecognized, treated like shit, harmed in any way, I'm passing the mic to them. And I'm having them sit down with therapists who used to be actors, who were in the industry and felt the suffering of the industry and the way the industry has treated us and left the industry to heal people. They're coming back to have these conversations with people who are of color, with people who are working with disabilities and, neurodivergence, people who are queer, people who are living in all of these different intersections. They're going to talk to therapists about what it is like to try to survive this environment and rebuild it so it feels like a safe place to be. So I'm passing the mic to all of those folks. And the folks that I'm talking about are, and this is what I wanted to tell you too, in addition to creating the Broadway On Demand program that I am happily decentering myself from. Along with that program, I also built a coalition where at colleges, students and teachers and their faculty and their advisors and their deans are all sitting down together and opening up the conversations about what school is like and what is not cool. And each of these different, the DNA branches is disability, neurodivergence, and accessibility, or the red branches, race and ethnic diversity, and they're sitting down with their teachers and going, this can no longer exist. This can no longer exist. And they're working with them. And I'm sitting and I'm listening going, what is happening at school? What can we change? How can I facilitate that? So I've had the really great opportunity of actually just sitting and listening to Oklahoma City University and all of the things that go on. And I was there all spring. And then this fall, I was at Millikan University doing the same thing and just listening to what pain school has put them in because the industry asked the school to put them in.
I want to hit that, Millikan, but before we do, I want to ask you a very human question.
Yeah.
As performers, for everyone watching, there are 3 performers, there are 3 artists on the screen right now. Yeah. And when you look at us, as opposed to a McDonald's, a Taco Bell, a Value City, a Giant, or anything like that,
yeah,
we are the brand. As in, my face will forever be Davon Williams, the brand. Rachel Ramirez, your look will always be the brand.
Yeah.
Sheri, can we bring up RTA with?
Yeah.
Now, can we bring up RTA without? RTA without.
Yeah, so this, everybody, is my public offering of decentering myself on our new platform. I think he's looking. So is it Todd who's pulling this up, or Napoleon?
No, they're looking for it now. But it gets while they look for that, this is essentially what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Here's the issue. Sheri, you were the face of Rock the Audition, the thing you created. This is your thing. Right now, we are looking at a moment where your brand, as in your human face that you have to look at every day in the mirror when you get yourself together and take a shower and stuff like that, has to be put in the shadows.
I don't care. It's because I became a helper because I was harmed. I'm actually an actor. I'm an actor who helps and was harmed. So I can decenter myself because it isn't about me. It's about the industry being healthier. And if decentering myself makes the industry healthier, I will do it. And that's what I think everybody needs to understand. If they're in some kind of a leadership position and they're white, they need to step aside and facilitate instead. And I am and will be that person.
Well, it's possible, even in that situation where, is there an echo? Even with situations like this where, for example, Amazon, they can move on without their head. They can move on without their leader because the logo is there.
Mm-hmm.
Can a business like ours, can our brand survive without us pushing the face forward? Can you survive this if you can't represent yourself?
My God, I would hope that it would survive better without me, because I was who I was for all these years. I was kind of like an auntie. I don't know how to describe it, but when I started going to schools and speaking, being the first white woman walking into rooms and going, can we talk about race? And can we talk about segregation? And can we talk about how we need to walk into an audition room and care about race if we're singing a song from these different times? I mean, can we have that be a part of our artistry? When that happened, there was nobody else doing it. And so I was like, I'll do it. I'll talk to the teachers and go, you can't talk to your students like that. Yeah. You can't say those things. And it was okay for me to be, and it was better in the moment because I was white. And so people of color could speak to me and say, could you speak to these teachers? And I could because I was white, and they couldn't because they weren't. And so I could go to the teachers and go, you can't do that. And they could be like, But if a student of color said you can't do that, they're going to go, whoa, 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 whoa. And so somehow for many years, I was a helper in that moment. And I think what happened is, and I think this is the truth, that when George Floyd was murdered and Black Lives Matter finally took hold, may it be for good, and that we get to change things, it was no longer my space to be the person to try to make the spaces healthier. That it was best for me to say, I'm going to give it over to the people who have had to live in an unhealthy space all this time and have them do it. And I am stepping back and I'm stepping away, but I still get to be a part of it and love it and collaborate and sit in on the classes and, hold classes of my own that are not race related, and be able to still do me, but I don't need to be in the center because, and this is the truth, and you might find it a little odd, but I feel like Rock the Audition was me channeling something bigger than me, going, this information needs to come out right now, and it's going to be you because you understand trauma and you understand this, and so it's going to come through you. And so I kind of feel like my teaching is just me channeling. So I don't really have any ego around it. If you told me I was a shitty actress, I would be a fucking mess on the floor. But if you told me that my language is wrong and I'm harming people because I don't have any ego around it, that's why I'm like, well, let's fucking fix it and make this better so everybody feels safe, because it's not mine, it's God's. And he just chose me and said, get all your shit out of the way so I can come through you and change some of this shit. And I think what the deal is now is that my turn to help is changing. And now my turn to help is about not speaking for other people, so things change, but to let other people speak for themselves.
I want to open a nice little ice cream cone moment. Let's open this up. Can I get RTA Web? So what we have here.
Oh my God, we're gonna get to show everybody what I'm doing.
We have the web here. It may be a little tough to read. Anybody that's looking on the phone, pause it, zoom in. But Sheri's gonna break this down a little bit. So what Sheri has done is restructured a lot of this system. We can take it down.
Yeah.
Sheri, what are we looking at?
Well, I didn't know you were going to share that, and that's very exciting. So again, there's the Broadway on Demand is something that started in March. So even though I still need to change the book, which, by the way, just to answer Joy's question, all of the content is being reviewed by friends that I could pay for now. That will eventually then, as I said, come into the program, and they're going to be taking these classes, and we're going to be paying them to take these classes to give us information on how to move the industry forward so it looks real. Anyway, I'm so excited. I don't even know what I was talking about. I just want to tell you about what I'm doing. So we're recreating pop rock music. And it really started from pop rock because I realized in doing pop rock was for everybody. There was no type. You know, you could be any flavor, shape, size, texture, dynamic. You could work with whatever, you know, you could contain multitudes, and pop music let you. It lets you be whoever you are. You can sing it in whatever key, and it's open for interpretation. In traditional musical theater and opera, it's gendered, it's white, and it's through the white gaze. And so when we went into pop rock, we were like, oh my God, what if we hire this team of people where we could have opera with no gender on it, and that we completely reinvent opera so that if you feel that song, you sing it. You play that role if you feel that, if it suits you, if you are the essence of that character, that is your character to play, no matter what you contain. So we went, let's go in and look at the entire canon of traditional musical theater, pop rock and opera, and think about what the reality would be. What would the reality be if we were looking at it? So just to give you an example, and it's a simple example, right? But it really is like what the whole thing's about. Say we take the musical Grease. Grease is white, right? If it was real and it was in reality, the T-Birds and the, what were they called? The Pink Ladies would be mixed. They would be Asian. The two idiots in the, you know, in Grease, Jan and Duty, would be neurodivergent because everybody would have been in detention together and nobody was, you know, if you can't pay attention, if you have ADHD or you're on the spectrum. So to me, we want to go through the entire canon and go, what's the truth here? And then we want to teach from the truth. And then we also want to say, that's white supremacist. What would be not? And so we're having, we have the head of traditional musical theater is Black. His name is Aaron Brown. He's a wonderful teacher, and he is facilitating a series of classes, some BIPOC only, but primarily to actually give the actual history of who these people were. Our friend Elijah Caldwell is a perfect example. He has a whole entire course he's building with me, which says, you know, Panama Hattie should not have been played by, oh God, what was her name? Ethel Merman. She's not from Panama. Who is from Panama? Can we see what that story is like? Or he says the gypsy is actually the Chitlin circuit. Why are we taking it away from the reality and making it white? So my goal is to actually bring all of the people in here who could reinvent musical theater and opera based in reality. And so we have two teachers of color creating, two Black teachers creating a rap curriculum based on time and location. We have Vishal, who's Indian, creating a curriculum that about riffing, right? That is about the spirituality of riffing, where it comes from in all of the different cultures. And what always brings us together in riffing is emotion. In opera, rather than training on the 24 Italian songs, we're getting 25 songs from all over the world, from every single culture. And we're training people on that, so that it's not just this old, horrible, I don't even want to say harmful system. We want to recreate the system. So I get to be a part of bringing people in that can create the system and facilitating it now. So I'm decentered, but I still get to make a healthier environment. It's just from the back. And that's cool. Because as long as I'm making a healthier environment, I could give a fuck where I'm standing.
So this is why we currently have RTA without
me. Yeah. Did you find the picture?
Of course, it's coming up right now. Boom, there it is.
Yeah, so that's
right there. So this is the new one?
That's the new one. So that is the one that's going to be put on the site. It's going to launch with our second season. And there will, and so there will be Sheri Sanders and Sheri Sanders, the problem fixer, the problem solver, the innovator, the actor, the all the things that I contain is going to be a separate entity from Rock the Audition. I'll still be in all of it and making all of it, but that's not going to be mine anymore. I'm passing it on to the community.
Let's talk about passing it on. Can I see message to reader? This is in the 2019 edition of Rock the Audition. Message to reader. This is the disclaimer. The book was written with a focus on using inclusive language around gender, ability, race, and more. The Rock the Audition team has worked directly with members of different communities to be as mindful and inclusive as possible. And then it goes on, it gives the contact information and things of the like. We could take that down. Rachel, I want to, because I think you can really drive this point home for people who are BIPOC, who understand exactly why the language sounds great, but where the reservation actually lies. Can you break down where the hang up is when you see things like that?
The reservation with reaching out, or the reservation with what?
Yeah.
Reaching out specifically.
Yeah. It said, call me, I care. And I wanted to know what went, and this is just sincerely, because what you were feeling is the truth. What came up for you when you saw that felt like I still want to express myself out in the universe because that's how I feel. Can you share that with us?
What do you mean? I mean,
rather than calling me and being like, yo, Sheri, you are racist, honey. Get on this now. Rather than calling me.
Wait, I missed that, Sheri. How did you want her to say it? How did you want her to say it?
So, in that little thing that is the disclaimer, we also have a disclaimer on the video content because it's just crucial that people know I'm a work in progress. But in that book, there is the disclaimer. I also talk about the assault I've been through and that I care about sort of making this an assault-free environment. I was curious about, because I know that says, reach out to me if you're interested in letting me know that I'm racist. What was I think Davon was asking, what did you feel? Did you feel like it still hurts and you still need to know?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know much about you besides that you were the author of this book that called me and other people seasoning.
Yeah.
And so how could I read that dedication and also read those pages and think that you were a safe person to put myself in a really raw position where I have been hurt and think that you would. I mean, look, I don't know if I talked about this on the first episode of this, but I have been lucky enough to finally found a virtual, because pandemic, space where me and other artists of color get to sit and we get to work on material, but we also get to talk about what we've been through. And not only, you have to understand that when I hear people that I love, when I hear people that are really talented and beautiful people, and I hear the way that they're being treated by white people in power, it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard to look, I'm not saying that anyone is perfect, and I'm not saying that everyone is awful. But what I mentioned to Davon earlier is that as a white person, you have to understand that you look like the person that commonly causes harm. And
yes,
you unfortunately carry that history.
Yeah.
And I have learned through this and through just kind of being alive and being in an institutionalized theatrical educational environment right now, that it is much safer for me to have reservations. It's much safer for me to not trust. Because if I put myself in a position where I can be exploited, where I can be removed from my university, where I can be removed from a job, where I can be blackballed in the industry, because all of this has happened, all of this continues happening.
Yeah.
I can't move through the world without knowing that.
Yeah.
And without that knowledge being the forefront of almost every decision that I make, especially in theater.
Yeah.
Especially when I still exist in primarily white spaces where white people are in charge of my grades. And the perception is that for people of color, white people are in charge of their success. White people are in charge of whether that door gets opened or slammed shut. And it happens.
Yes, it does. And you're right. And I want, or at least I want to, first of all, I want to say I hear you and I understand, because it's very similar to what happened on social media, which is that it didn't matter that I was an ally, and it didn't matter that I listened, and it didn't matter that I would change right away. I hurt people. And I think, Rachel, what you're saying is it doesn't matter what you're in. And I feel this way because I've been harmed. I don't care that you didn't mean to hurt me. I don't care. I don't care. You hurt me. I'm hurt, and I need you to change. So thank you for telling me you would never in a million years dream to hurt me like that. Thank you. You still did it. You still did it. I'm still hurt. How are you going to fix it? And so I come from, a similar background to you, Rachel, even though our circumstances are so completely different. I agree. I have felt completely unsafe in the world for my own reasons. So I wanted to ask you and our environment, one, can you at this point see me as a person who heard you, who's changing everything I can on the dollar I have? And then when we got more money and we're at Broadway On Demand, all the big shifts can happen. But that we're in a huge process making those things happen. Shavana's going to come with us. We've got a team that we are hiring that looks through all of the material before it even goes out. Can you hear me say that I am here to be in the change with you as a white person? And that I'm here to listen, and I'm here to actually change in not only stepping back and giving you space and creating space to hold space for you, but that I'm listening to everything, and that I'm willing to make whatever changes I need to make. And not only that, so one, can you believe that in me? And two, I belong to Musical Theater Educators Alliance. I don't know if you know them. I know that your school's not involved with them, and I hope that they get involved. I was thinking about even paying them and paying for their membership. But we are a team of teachers that are looking and listening and caring and shifting and changing our curriculums and working on making this better for everybody. And so I just wanted to tell you that I actually believe that white people, there are white people, teachers, that are like, we don't want this anymore for anybody. So I kind of just wanted to say, I know you don't trust anybody, and I know that there isn't a reason to trust me, but one, I'd like to bring you in. This is the first. So I wanted to invite you into this the first time, but because I was just being a hearty listener, I couldn't. And then also Davon asked me, because I asked if I could reach out to you. And he said, no, let her do her school, please. And you'll find your way back, like, let it rest. But I wanted to, in that moment, invite you into our team so that I could pay you to build our curriculum with us. And that way, it could be a reparative experience for you. And I would love for you to be a part of the intersectional students and performers and teachers that we're bringing in and paying to tell us how this needs to go now, and that we build that curriculum out of that. So I would just want to invite you as a team member, rather than being in opposition to you. I say, get in here and let's make it better together. So is there a world where I can reach out my paw to you and say, you have my sincere apologies, and like, let's change it together. And I will always put you in the center and put the marginalized person in the center, not myself. Does that feel like something you'd be game to get involved with us in? And is there a world where you can believe that actually there's a bunch of us and producers in the industry and people in the industry that are white, that have been doing fucked up things, that are like, what have I been doing? Oh my God, that's horrible. No, let's stop. And that we're working, with Britain, and we're working with, Broadway for Racial Justice, and that we're we're caring and changing. Your school should be doing that as well and should have done a better job with you. And I'm sorry, but I do want to let you know that I care and we care, and we want to make sure that you are as safe as humanly possible and that you can thrive and feel liberated by us. And I'm here for that. So will you take my paw and change this damn place with me?
I really, really appreciate the offer, and I appreciate everything you said. It's not, as I said the first time, this kind of environment is unprecedented, and I think the kind of approach that you're taking is not often what we are
met with,
and not often what we see.
I know.
And I thank you for that. I am definitely open, and also I don't know that I'm best.
Oh no, we're getting a couple of glitches.
I'm one person that
Rachel, repeat what you said. It got a little glitchy.
You're breaking up. Say it again.
From where?
You're open?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm open and I'm receptive, and I appreciate, I appreciate your response, and I appreciate Davon's involvement. And I also don't know that I'm the best person for this. There are a lot of people like me.
Oh no, we do. We just want to bring you into the fold and take some of our classes. And
I'm gonna ding one time. This is the hopefully first only time I have to ding. Right now I'm on screen with 2 women, and me included means 1 Black person. One thing I can say is all of us have experienced a moment where we're marginalized, and here's a little bit of behavior that happens, and it happens in the conversation. I'm letting the conversation go for a little while because I want to hear the 2 of you talk to each other.
Yeah.
But part of it is allowing someone to get their full thought out. So Sheri, what's happening right now is this can be considered a microaggression, where essentially you just have to let Rachel finish her thought.
Finish talking?
So yeah, Rachel, finish that thought. Unprecedented. Let's go from there.
Thank you. Thanks, Davon.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think this is an unprecedented sort of moment from all sides. And I am more than open to considering that option. And I also, part of what I have talked to Davon about is that I am only an expert in my experience in my so far only 20 years of life. Yeah. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who have a much better grasp on maybe what needs to happen, because I personally, I don't have my equity card. I haven't been on Broadway. I haven't done a lot of regional shows. I don't know what those spaces feel like, and it would be totally unfair for me to take up that mic and speak for people who, that's not my experience. That's not my place. And so I really, really appreciate that offer. And I think that there's probably a lot of people who can do it better. Do I think that my voice is valuable? Yeah. Do I think that I have insight on these pockets of my experience? Absolutely. But I also, part of what I think my responsibility is, and what I think I have to know when it's my turn.
Yeah.
And I have to know when it is my place. And I also in my journey want to make sure that I never overshadow someone else who would be better, or who needs it, or who should be there.
Thank you for that. It's beautiful of you to say that, and thoughtful too. Just come in anyway, and you're not taking anybody's space. And just come in and play with me, and let me show you what a safe environment looks like. And just let me repair. And you're not going to take anybody's space, because we're going to have so many people from so many different backgrounds and so many different intersections that are going to all be contributing just by being involved. So you won't be taking anybody's space. I want to repair by giving you an education that holds space for you.
Thank you.
And so consider being there and just being a part of our new creation of something better, and that you just get to be there with us in the creation, and that when there's things that you want to say and share, you contribute. And we listen and we shift. So we just want you part of the house.
While Rachel reflects on that, I would love to bring us back to Milliken. Care. So let's talk about some of these projects, initiatives. Can I get Milliken, you care?
Yeah, so this is pretty great. So the CARE Coalition, like I said earlier on, I created the CARE Coalition. I created the coalition in the city with the launch of my second edition, but it is the college environments, just like Rachel's saying. There's no relationship between the students and the teachers and the facilitators. No one's speaking the same language, and everybody continually is harmed and feels like they don't have any room to be themselves and to flourish as artists because they're being suppressed emotionally, whatever way they're being harmed, they're being harmed. So Milliken is the second school that I get to be a part of. And it's really exciting because the school has invested in them and their mental health so much that they're actually paying for the program to do a mental health first aid, which is another initiative that I have, so that that the whole program is trained in mental health first aid. So while we're online, while we're with each other in the space, when there is triggering language, when there is things that go on that are not safe and people start to feel harmed, or people are just getting triggered because life is hard, that we have ways that we could take care of each other, and that teachers can take care of students, and students can take care of each other, and facilitators can take care of students, and that everybody's listening and watching out for each other and noticing how to take care of people when these things are getting worked out so that we can keep the environment safe and protected. So Milliken Care, like I said, which is the second CARE program, is their focus is mental health and neurodivergence and disability. And OCU's focus was really they have a lot of stuff going on there, but it's starting to heal. But it was a very big race issue at school. And the thing about our coalition, and I think the thing that I want to mention is, we have all these branches that we've created where you could learn how to say, this upsets me, this isn't cool at school, can we change these things? But really why all of these different, I'm going to call them branches, were created because people belong to, we're all, like I said, we contain multitudes, so you don't just belong to one branch, you can belong to all the branches, but more than anything, it was about learning how to advocate for somebody other than yourself. So it was being in the QI branch or being in the neurodiversity branch, the NDA branch, and advocating and holding space for race and ethnic diversity. And for race and ethnic diversity, learning how to hold space for queer folks, and that we learn how to hold space for each other. So that's what I'm creating as just a facilitator and auntie, is going, what's happening here? All right, can we get this person to come? Can you hear this? Okay, so what are you doing? Great, I'm going to go to another school. And so I just want to let you know that my goal is for us to learn how to take care of each other so that no one's harmed, no matter what. And so that's my whole goal. So Milliken, that's the semester that I have spent my time with, and that's what I'm passing the mic to this season.
All right, can I get involved care? Involved care. So this is essentially how this is broken down. So who's involved? I see students, faculty members, alumni, industry leaders, Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Counseling Services, branches, LGBTQ+, inclusivity. Can we pull this down really quick?
Yes.
I want to take us.
There's a new one we created called Body Empowerment because of the, I'm just going to be honest, the eating disorders that these programs create in people. And the body shaming and all of those things are so damaging that people are having to walk out with bad training and eating disorders. So what we're trying to do is address that as well, get nutritionists in the school, and start getting people to love their bodies and for spaces to welcome and be adaptable to all bodies. So the branch we just built.
The reason I broke that up is because sometimes in language, things are always right. We figure out the right things to say, the right way to communicate, but sometimes we miss the subtext. Or we miss that moment of like real genuine connection and in essence to sound correct. The Actors Equity Association has a wonderful program partnered with a company called The Lighthouse, in which if anyone experiences sexual assault, sexual harassment, they can call this number, associated with Lighthouse, and I believe they also have an app for that. There's an app for that in which they could literally fill out a report. Castillo, kind of the same way. It works kind of like a dating program where you'll put in the information that took place, and if someone else does it, you ding. And what happens in these dings is you can decide to meet with this other person who had that shared experience with the abuser. Or you can go, you know what, take my story, keep my name out of it, or I don't want to engage at all. You have that freedom to choose how comfortable you are. What I wonder is, how do we do that for race? How do we do that for sexual orientation? How do we do that for body empowerment in a place where, for example, Malloy, these places and these systems that are set up, how could someone like Rachel go in and anonymously report that so that they feel safe? Because as we just discussed, even though the helping open hand is there, because of what we've experienced in our life, it doesn't always seem like the safest hand to grab.
Yes.
So is there a system that you've created within everything you've created where someone can anonymously report or find a safe way to get involved?
Well, first of all, the anonymous stuff is really cool because we're creating that. So like I said, we have the strategist ready to go once we can get the money to have the but we always want to be able to, moving forward, have anonymous feedback. Because I don't want, even though everybody feels comfortable, I don't want to say everybody, people feel very comfortable sharing with me because I don't judge people. I listen with an open heart, but that doesn't mean that people feel safe to tell me things. And so there needs to be a space for people who don't care how open or not judgmental I am, that it still is easier for them to do. So that's going to exist. There's also going to be a space where language exists so that casting directors, music directors, teachers can go, well, let me look at what the language is for this today. Is it Latinx or is it Latine? What are we calling it because it keeps shifting? Or what is the full palette of language that we're using right now that we need to know? Because 6 people who have disabilities all use different language with their disabilities. And it's our job to know what the palette of language is. So what's the work? We sit down with Rachel. We sit down with everybody and we go, tell us everything. It's the listening that doesn't happen. So we need to give space for these students to just speak and say it and talk about it. And then we need to be in, for lack of a better word, because I was asking Rachel to take my paw, but we got to do it together where those white people who are the people who are doing the harm go, great, I would like to recreate this with you. I'm going to do all my homework. I'm going to figure some stuff out. I'm going to go work it out with my white friends in this private group. We're going to work with our therapist. We're going to do the things that we need to do. And then I'm going to meet you with as much as I know, as much as I understand. And then I'm going to work with the individual I'm with and look at who they are and what do they work with and what are their multitudes. So we have to learn as a society that there's homework that we have to do. And then there's the looking at the individual. And as long as we know that that's what we have to do is meet there, then I think the change can happen. You know what I mean? We've got work to do.
I want to take this to the streets really quick. Sorry to cut you off, Sheri. With us in the comments, we have Miss Alyssa Gomez. Can we pull up Alyssa Gomez's comment?
Yeah.
I wonder if this would be a great opportunity for more teachers / casting / directors / agencies to more actively open up opportunities for BIPOC artists to reach and submit to join their teams.
Yeah. So this is the whole goal, is us trying to work together. So I think it comes from education because the industry's too fucked up and they don't want to change as badly and as quickly as the teachers that I know want to change. And so to me, we start here at education and that we create opportunities and say, hey, we did all the work for you. Now you got to show. Now all you got to do is show up and do it. So the idea is that we want to facilitate and we want to create a house where casting directors can go, great, we want to bring in casting directors of color, and they know that they can find a place inside where schools are going, hey, we've got these kids, they wanted, they're interested in casting, and that there could be a house where people can say, we're here. You can't say we're not here. We're right here. And these are our skill sets and let's get this rolling. So the whole idea is to kind of bridge the gap between the industry and education so that the industry can't pull this shit anymore because everybody's there available and ready to rock and roll. You know, so to me, it's creating a house where they can't say, I can't, I don't know where to. We go, oh, you can. It's all right here. So there's no excuses anymore.
All right. I would like to throw it over to Bridget Harvey. We have Bridget Harvey in the house. Bridget Harvey says, how do we not center ourselves, even in our apologies? How do we, is it possible, is it helpful to apologize if we are centering ourselves in our apologies? Sheri, I believe you want to be better. I believe that you want to move the world forward and repair. I am genuinely curious in decentering. Decentering.
I'm going to let Rachel speak on that. I just think that it's your ego. It's not about you. So you have to take yourself out of the center because it's not about you. It's about the other person and their feelings and what you've done to make them feel bad. So my response to that is you just decenter yourself. You just say, it's not about me. It's about the pain I've caused. How do we fix it? And then it naturally decenters itself. It decenters you. There's probably deeper things to that because I'm a white person talking about decentering themselves. But Rachel, do you want to speak on that a little bit more? That's kind of my impulse is that, like, don't be a jerk. It's not about you.
Yeah. Davon, is there anything you want to add before I...
Yeah, and while your screen loads up, I think decentering is a little tricky because the question is, how do you decenter? What is centering? I think there's oh my God. I'm trying my best not to monologue today.
We can have another conversation. I think there's too much to talk about.
Just Christmas episodes every year talking about this. Centering. I feel that it's a little tricky, and this is why I think it's tricky, because sometimes when you feel like you know the answer, you want to just throw it out there. If you were to take race out of it for a second, it's that person in class who always has the answer or always feels like they have to give their 2 cents or always feel like they know it all. It's one of the things, like when all of us delegates get together in AEA, sometimes I'll get a little side text being like, is this bitch still talking? Which, of course, bitch as in like not this person is a bitch, but like that's the colloquialisms that like gay people use. Is this bitch still talking? And you're like, yes, she is. It's been 5 minutes. We're still here. She's now cycling back to what she talked to in the beginning. So part of the issue,
that's ego.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. So when you take race and all that out of it, there's a certain level of ego that you're dealing with. And what we tend to learn in a lot of situations like this is ego really poisons the pool so often that we fall victim. And then, of course, there's little offsets. If we would go back to like the little outline that we showed Sheri's restructuring of the school, it's kind of like that, where ego is at the center, and then you have ego in relation to race, ego in relation to equality, ego in relation to this. And what happens is, as we get better with dealing with race and dealing with this and understanding that, one, the world is bigger than just us. There are things that exist without us. The world existed before and it will exist after us. It kind of puts kind of a perspective in that yes, we can be big. Our souls can be bright, but we can also acknowledge that we are one star in a wonderful looking constellation. And that in order for us to shine and really like play our part, we have to acknowledge the sky and wind and everything else that surrounds us. Sorry to take that into poetry and spoken.
Always put into poetry, but it's true. We're a piece.
I'm going to throw it back to Rachel though, Sheri. Rachel.
Yeah, I think that here's the thing is that we exist in a world and in a country where racism is present and racism exists in the fabric of the country's being. And so I think what happens is that a lot of the time when we're confronted with that reality, it's scary, and depending on who you are and what your background is, we have different responses to that. And I think so often sometimes I feel like when I bring things up, I either have to position to teach or I have to prepare for the guilt or the response of white people. And I think that for me, like you said, there's homework that has to happen beforehand. I am always really baffled when someone comes to me and was like, I had no idea. That's crazy. Like, thank you for sharing that. And like the most well-intentioned, but what you're telling me is that you haven't been listening. because there are so many people with varying perspectives that have been talking about this and haven't just been talking about it since June, but have been talking about it for decades. And so I think that, you know, we talk about apologies, and like I also want to mention that not all people of color are the same. I said this in our first thing. You know, what I want maybe when somebody has harmed me is a really personal thing, and it, you know, there's psychology involved and whatever. But I think just kind of opening up and being like, I don't know exactly what to say or what to do, but I recognize that this happened and I want to show up better moving forward. So if there's anything specifically that I can do for you, if there's anything specifically that would help support you, let me know. And then be prepared to do that thing. Because I think that there are a lot of empty promises happening. And I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about what it means to show up. And I recognize that we all have different, varying, complex identities. Yeah. There's intersectionality always has to be involved. And not everyone needs the same thing. Not everyone wants the same thing. But going back to the centering, yeah, it's not your pain. It's not your experience. Again, I think accountability, I think transparency is really important. But other than that, you have to let someone process, and you have to let. Sometimes when a person of color reacts, there are a lot of things at play. Yeah. And there can be a lot of things at play. And I know sometimes for me, I'm very new to coming to terms about what it means to move my body through space through this world. And I'm always changing. And so I think that the idea that, yes, decenter, be accountable, be transparent, and then put the center back on them. What do you need? What can I do for you? And sometimes that might be to get out of their face. Yeah.
Speaking of getting out of face, I believe there's a question here for you. Sarah Simmons in the house. Can we get the first part of Sarah Simmons right before we get to the parentheses? Sarah Simmons says, great teachers in the house. I'm interested if this is considered more labor for Rachel. We're going back to the offer that was given. Even if paid, is it asking Rachel to do more, Rachel?
I think the answer is always yes. I will only speak to my experience, but after our first thing, our first receipts, the only, you know, I was, as we discussed, you know, I had to deal with my institution. I had to deal with what it meant to still go to school there. Yeah. I had to deal with what it meant to be a queer person of color in theater still. And the only thing that I had seen after our initial viewing was something that you posted in a private Facebook group that showed me that you didn't listen.
Can we pull up Sheri Facebook status? Sheri Facebook status. Sheri Facebook. Hopefully that was not the last thing I put in. Sheri Facebook status. Keep going. I'm going to find it.
Yeah, while he's looking for it, can you describe, I think I know the one you're talking about. Can you describe more of what it made you feel while he's finding it?
Yeah. Do you want me? I have it pulled up. I can read it.
Yes.
This is in quotes. It says Sheri Sanders admin. And I believe it was a couple of days after our initial, the first time we spoke. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I've been in the middle of the beginning process of healing the BIPOC community. So if you didn't make it to the receipts, never fear. There is a part 2 where I get to be accountable and offer them the changes we are already building in here with more ideas of growth. I do want to share here that this young person, Rachel, and a great deal of this community was assaulted by my racist passage in my book. Mm-hmm. My pain around this is she was assigned my 2011 book, not the 2019 edition, by her MT teacher at school. Yeah. And then it goes on to kind of blame my teacher and furthermore blame me for reading the wrong book. which I also want to address because I read the 2019 version.
I'm glad to hear that that's the one you read. You know that I didn't know that, right?
Hold on, Sheri. I'm gonna let her get through this and then let you address it.
You again. Please finish, and thank you again, Davon.
I found it really. First of all, I felt gaslit because I feel like instead of it felt a little bit back. Yeah. I also want to address. I've been in the middle of the beginning process of healing the BIPOC community.
Yeah.
That's not your place. You can't. That to me illustrated a little bit more of this.
Yeah, like a white savior.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I hear you.
And then to go on and kind of blame me for reading the wrong edition, which is not correct. What I found really interesting about this is in the first receipts, Davon made a really big point about, these hands that were clearly the hands of a person of color who were holding the weight of this book. Mm-hmm. And when my friend sent me that screenshot, I was like, that's really funny because that's the book. Like, those are the pictures that we talked about. That's the book, the physical book that sat in my hands, that sat in my lap, that I read.
Can I get book edition? Can I get book edition clarification? Just to clarify, we're going to pull that receipt. That is copyright 2019 by Sheri Sanders. That's your hand, right, Rachel? Mm-hmm. All right, so we are able to clarify that. That is a clarification. We could pull that down.
Great. Rachel, what else? Tell me.
So for me, after going on this show with you, it kind of felt like it was for nothing. I mean, obviously, I didn't do it for you, Sheri. I didn't do it for me. I did it for anyone who would resonate with this sort of this institutional racism. And I did it so that if people could resonate, they felt solidarity and they felt seen and they felt heard and they felt like there was somebody saying that this is not okay.
Yeah.
Because it isn't okay. But to me, to come and attack my teacher and then further invalidate me and my harm by saying that I read the wrong copy when that wasn't true, felt kind of like the whole purpose diminished and undermined. And that the labor that Davon and I put in, the labor that Joanna put in, the labor of every single person on that call who sought out to respectfully and almost academically prove the racism in these pages was undermined. And I also felt like I had to take another step of proving that it was the right edition. And either way, I want to say, regardless of the edition, you did write it.
Yes, and they're both racist.
And I appreciate that you can say that.
Oh my God, they're both racist and they're both harmful. And that wasn't why I wanted you to read the 2019. It wasn't because I thought, well, so first of all, what else are you saying? I've cut you off twice because I'm excited. Are you complete? I don't want to interrupt you anymore. Okay. So first, I was under the assumption that it was the 2011 book. It was not made clear to me that, and I had even asked Davon a few times. And I also wasn't allowed to speak to anybody to find out which book it was. I called your teacher many, many times to talk to him about it. Did he tell you that? He never responded. I called your school. I called everybody to find out which book was it and how did you treat Rachel and what happened? And nobody got back to me. So during this time, did think it was a 2011. Now, they're both racist. They're both racist, and you're so right. The seasoning is used not only where we speak about that, but it's used throughout all the book because in my mind, if we're neurodiverse, we have seasoning. If we work with disabilities, we have that is our seasoning. But I didn't think for 5 minutes to go through, wait a minute, this is actually though a bad term to use. So let me go through everything again and not use it in the places where it's harmful. So the truth is, yes, that is 100% racist. You're absolutely right. I only wanted you to read the 2019 book because I talked about the space I keep, that I'm a work in progress, and it's the first inclusive book, and that I work with PTSD, and that I'm here to change, and that I'm open for feedback. That was the only reason why I wanted you to read the 2019 one. They're both racist as hell and harmful. That's why we're going to change them right now, even just temporarily. Just having them read by great intersectional people, just even for now, till we can make that big change, because under no circumstances should anybody be reading anything like that. So I just want to let you know that that is the case. I'm going to apologize to you for the things that you felt and for insulting your teacher. I wish he called me back. I wish he wrote me back. I wish his wife wrote me back and the school wrote me back and answered my questions. What I do want to,
I also want to bring in that it's complicated, and it's complicated with schools, and it's complicated with how everything works in the industry. I felt really blindsided and slightly taken advantage of, because I purposely did not mention my I purposely came on to only talk about my experience with the book, and I felt a little bit betrayed that there were things going on behind my back without me that I didn't consent to.
Yeah.
I had no voice in when this is something that I brought to the table.
May I apologize for the other things in the post? Yeah. I'm embarrassed to tell you that I have some grammar problems when I'm traumatized because I have CPTSD and it's really complex. And I've been working with kind of a heavy duty amount of trauma this year. The thing that gets affected, and my assistant and Shavana and anybody who works with me knows that I am not the best with language when I'm traumatized. That private group was actually, I thought, my house, because it's not a moderated group. It's just teachers and friends. And so in my mind, in that moment, traumatized, I thought I thought I was speaking eloquently, and I thought that people would understand because I'm not a white savior. It didn't matter because that's how it read. So, and that's how it came off. So first I want to say that what I meant to say was, and I know this for a fact because it's in the second half of the sentence and it should have been made into one shorter sentence. I am working on healing the damage I did to the BIPOC community. That was what I was intending to say, which was why the rest of it was like, don't fear, I'm here, I'm going to fucking do it. But I said it wrong because when I get traumatized, my language goes out the window because I have PTSD. It's really bad. And so that's what happened. So that's the first part. The second part was that I think I believed, wow, if she read that where I was coming from and that I'm a work in progress and that I receive feedback with love, she would have seen that in the 2019 book, and this wouldn't. So it was really more about that. You're seeing that I'm working on it than it was me not being racist. I'm racist, period. There's just nothing to say about it. I'm a part of a racist society. I've done racist things in the act of trying to do the right thing. And I'm here to apologize for that. And the fact that you got hurt more from me trying to say, I wish that she saw that I was a person trying to change and could give me a little bit of grace because I'm in the changing place, than it was about you reading a book that was less racist. They are equally racist. Even if I'm focusing on having inclusive language, it's coming from a white woman. Therefore, it's racist. It's my point of view.
With our last little bit of time. Oh, no, finish that thought.
Well, I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and I recognize that, all of that.
Thank you.
Oh, God, it's the truth. But please forgive me for coming off as a white savior. I actually want to save myself. I need saving, and I'd love to save myself, and I'd love to hold space for other people to do the same. And that is what I meant. That's why the rest of it kind of made sense and was positive, but you're like, what is this bitch saying? I'm saying something out of trauma and my grammar is fucked. But what I really want to say is I'm in the works of healing the damage I did. I did it. And I'm in the middle of it. So right now I just want to tell you to hold tight. And I was sad about your teacher. And this is the last thing I want to say, because there was a movement of teachers that this happens a lot with teens. And with teens, it's okay. But they're like, hey, come take this class with Betsy Wolf. And then Betsy Wolf is, no offense to Betsy Wolf, she's a great teacher. But this famous person is now teaching you, and this famous white person is teaching, and this famous white person is teaching. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, have they ever been around young people? Have they been around traumatized people? Do they know about it? No, I know. But anyway, so I was more.
Can I interject just a moment though?
Yeah.
You were speaking about someone and about somebody's how they conduct a classroom without knowing how they conduct a classroom.
Agreed.
And without knowing what happened between me and that teacher.
You're right.
And that's not fair to my teacher or me.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to, I think on a really macro level, we just shouldn't talk about things that we don't know the details about.
Agreed.
And there are things that I kept private in an effort to protect myself and in an effort to present as professionally and respectfully as possible. And I felt like those efforts were, again, a little bit undermined by the actions that were taken and the words that were spoken to.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what's interesting, Rachel, that I learned, because I've never been a part of anything like this before. Yeah, I thought that was my house and that I could have private thoughts and feelings with my friends that are teachers. And what I realized is that no house is a private house. And I didn't know that. I thought that I was just with the people who knew me and who knew who I was. And I really learned from this because the person who grabbed that screenshot was not a friend and not a teacher and not anybody who spent any time with me. So
Point of clarity.
Oh, yeah.
Are you saying that you were in the safety of your home and with someone that you knew that you would still speak this way?
Sorry, say that again?
As in, you keep saying you think it's your home. So I just want to make sure we clarify this moment because I think it's going to get lost in translation.
Oh, no. There's the private place where that is a way. That is separate from the place we engage with, the way that we need to do, where we process thoughts and process feelings.
But I'm clarifying. I'm making sure that you're saying you want a safe space to clarify, be corrected. And get there. Are you saying you want a safe space where you can say how you truly feel?
No, well, just like Rachel has, there needs to be a safe space for white teachers to process the things that we feel and work through things with each other. That is just where we are so that we can come back to the table and say things that are not and work stuff out. And I in that moment didn't know that there was a space that existed like that. And in that moment, because I was traumatized, I thought that private group of teachers and students was that space because most of those folks knew me. So it was a miss shot in every way. Because even in a shared white space, I don't know if I would speak like that. I was just so traumatized and so scared because I wanted to fix it and I didn't know how to make it stop. And I was hurting so many people. I didn't know how to stop it. So I just thought that I was in my house going, I wish that people saw me and knew me. And it came out actually as blaming, harming, pointing the finger at, and not being responsible for the pain I caused because it was not intended to be about that the attachment was about that. The personal feelings will never be public again so that no one ever has to see my processing my pain. They can only see what I've done with it and how I've adjusted to it, and then how I'm bringing myself to the table after that. That's what people need to see. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as sharing screenshots or people going into private, like that's just nothing that's happened to me before. And I've never been in an environment like that before. So it was very new and I didn't know how to respond. And I couldn't respond in kind. I couldn't respond in person because I needed to let people express their pain to me.
Speaking of pain, it pains me to say that we have to bring this to an end. Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
I want to, of course, just like Sheri said, thank you, Rachel Ramirez, for coming on and co-hosting with me. Oh my goodness, I cannot wait to see what the future. I tell you this every time. I can't wait to see what the future brings because you are just on it. And Sheri, thank you for putting yourself on the line for this crazy experiment that I had, where I'm just like, hey, let's do accountability in person. Let's get out there and really deal with transparency. And
I know I can do it with Rachel, so.
So I hope, I hope that both of you were able to find something out of this, because moving forward, the reason I wanted to do this special edition and the reason that I trusted Sheri with this is because there's something a lot bigger coming. Now, I like to think about Marvel, for example. Marvel being the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. You got all these superheroes doing their own thing, and then you have a huge issue coming down the pike. For episode 10 of The Receipts, the first season, that minor issue that we hinted to was SAG-AFTRA versus AEA, in which David White said, "This is how we're going to do it. These are the waivers we're going to give, and this is what it's going to be." In which then the fight happened, and what happened? Exactly what David White said. Which brings me to a bigger issue. I'm going to take this sport coat off right now.
Thanks also everybody who came. There's a lot of teachers here, Rachel. A lot of my teacher family came because they wanted to hear everything you had to say.
That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Listen, we give a fuck and we want to do it right. Not everybody, but at least the people I surround myself with. And I just want to let you know there's a lot of us and they're here.
That's awesome. Both of you wait backstage. I'm going to finish this out now that I finally took this now that I've taken the sport coat off. Today, we got to meet again Rachel Ramirez during a special edition of The Receipts Part 1 and Part 2. And she got to do something that a lot of us don't get to do. She got to confront the person that harmed her. And out of that harm and her voicing that pain, she got to invoke change. Sheri heard it. She tried to find her way through it. And now she's created actionable steps to move forward. How will it end? I don't know. But the steps are there and someone has taken the risk and someone says, you know what? Accountability culture, I'm here. Let's do it. I did not get that. In 2019, I was performing in a show. I was the lead. July 20th, the show opened. July 21st was my birthday. July 22nd, I got on a faulty bike provided by the theater. I was then hit by a Mack truck. And if it wasn't for a random stunt class that I had taken, I would have been under that truck dead because the brakes did not work. I reached out to the theater a little while after because I was very upset. I spoke with the artistic director, in which then she deflected and I felt less than. I then sent an email in which then she proceeded to make me feel less than for even asking and confronting. I then went to my union. It is December 17th, 2020, and my union has yet to do anything. My union has yet to take my side or teach me what I could do. I was even advised by my business rep to just let it go because I don't think there's anything equity can do for you in this situation. This place in which I paid dues, I could not get a seat at the table. Then later, there was an election that took place in which I saw race baiting. So at some point, race matters when it fits them. And then as time went, I saw emails regarding Equity League, and then race was thrown into it again. I saw then with SAG-AFTRA and AEA, when they went into their fight, race was used yet again. That's when I mattered. When we needed to win. However, in situations like SAG-AFTRA, only one union, I'm a member of both, only one union has a Black executive director. It's not Actors Equity. And I'll be very frank, I like Mary McCall. And I don't think my beef is with Mary McCall, because Mary McCall isn't the one I want to speak to. I want to speak to the writer of the Equity League email, who I did have a chance off the record to speak with her. But publicly, I don't get that resolve. Publicly, I don't get to see accountability. As the diversity report came out through Actors Equity, I think it's clear that even in these theaters, there's a lot of work to be done. At the end of season One, I said that I was going to get to work on this Black Theater Matters bill. And I was going to see to it that if anyone else came through and went through what I went through, that there would be a space for them to get that resolve. The Black Theater Matters bill is done. It's being edited. And in 2021, I really hope that I can release it, it can be received, and we can create the reform needed so that everyone gets a seat at the table, or we just build a whole new table entirely. I said it once and I said it again. When it comes to the system, I'm coming for you, bitch. We can play this last video because this is season 2. This is also a sizzle reel. So let's play that receipt sizzle, and I'll see you in 2021, season 2 of the receipts, Road to the Convention. My name is Davon Williams, and I am a proud AEA member. Recently, I have been trying to get in touch with you through social media and the AEA offices to no avail. When I started looking into the things happening during this election, I'll be honest, I had a panic attack. How do we not leave people behind?
We can't really afford to, but it is starting with this, what you're doing. It's the boldness and the fearlessness and the courage to just step out in whatever emotional state.
The current state of America when it comes to race relations also didn't quell those feelings by any means.
Throughout our history, that Black artists have been the ones to sound the battle cry in the fight for our liberation.
All right, but there's a lot of us, so you're gonna have to hit and you're gonna have to go. But we're gonna start with you, Brett, and this is the question, framing what you said. Now that we have their attention outside of entertainment, how do we utilize this moment?
Well, I love what you're doing right now, which is dragging the platforms of many people.
Instead of leaving the union, I've decided to lean in. I've researched every candidate. I've looked over so much of the AEA website, and now I'm beginning to feel empowered.
And that's a time when you actually have to be out speaking with as many people as possible. And the mix that you have for your show, as evidenced by your introduction, which brings what's going out on the streets into the life of people who are interested in media and entertainment and the industry and the details of contracts. You've called yourself a nerd. That shows even from the intro, right? I mean, you're a detailed type person. So
yesterday, I watched your panel on your Facebook Live twice. You said most people who get involved in council usually do because something went wrong. Sadly and gladly, I agree. We're not represented that well. We as in Black people, we as in other minorities, we're not represented well on these councils. Now, I'm not saying we should flood them and that our voices will be heard then, because we're not a monolith, we're not all that. Some people will look just like us and then do the exact opposite of what we want for comfort. It's time for us to start talking about who's qualified and who's not qualified. More often than not, you need someone who went through the struggle to understand. You got to go through something to get to something. I have a story that has also led me to want to be more involved. Yes, you will see me more in the trenches, getting involved. And with such power comes responsibility. Someone has to go. Gabby, who do you pick?
Ralph. Woo, just right off the bat.
Ralph, who do you pick?
Is Sarah still part of our team?
Yeah, you can vote for Sarah.
Sarah is indeed part of your team. Gabby, you can't change your vote. You cannot change your vote, Gabby. I say that because I see a hole that I can fill. The two people I want to speak to before this entire election cycle concludes. One person is Mark Richard Taylor, who has shocked me to my core by saying yes to interviewing with me. And you. Right now, I want to know what the next 4 years will bring. Because of my situation, for the first time in what feels like forever, I'm afraid. I'm afraid for my career, I'm afraid for my race, and I'm afraid for my life. As I continue to examine every institution that has asked of me in some way, I am now asking them to show me what they are doing. Now it is time for me to go work on this Black Theater Matters bill. My name is Davon Williams, and today I'm presenting to you the receipts.